Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Quick shout out to my newest patron, Anthony W. Thank you for choosing to support the channel. I tweeted this out earlier today because Tesla stock was temporarily down 5% today, dipping into the 180s, and many people started to panic. I genuinely believe, though, this is going to be the best investment advice for most investors. And I just have to say to anybody out there that might be genuinely struggling with what's going on with Tesla stock, maybe you're over leveraged, not sure what you should do, please feel free, shoot me an email. It'll be linked below. I'd be happy to chat, hopefully offer some perspective. With that said, let's talk about what's going on with Tesla stock. So we are at a historical junction here. Tesla currently down 54% from the all-time high. Looking at the chart that Charlie shared, Tesla's historical drawdowns, we are right here, 54%. There's only been one time in the history of Tesla stock where we've seen a drawdown bigger than 54%. That was back in 2020. In case you're not familiar, a drawdown is just how far an investment has fallen from its peak. There was also much being made about what Jim Cramer said, saying Tesla has the worst stock chart that he's ever seen. And I just have to say, if you're actually taking your financial advice from Jim Cramer, I would encourage you to potentially changing that strategy. I mean, look, accounts like this don't become popular for no reason. There have been plenty of instances where Cramer has given advice, and the stock in the coming weeks has done exactly the opposite. So these days, just watch Jimmy for what he is. He's a pure entertainer. In fairness, with that said, this is the chart that he is referring to. I'll include a link to this video below. It is technical analysis, and I know some of you absolutely hate that, so I won't spend time covering this. But the truth is, the chart does indeed look very bad. All that really means in the short term, there could still be room to go downward, and we've known this to be the case for some time. Gary Black tweeted this out this morning talking about the NDX, the NASDAQ 100, which is just the 100 biggest companies listed on the NASDAQ, but it does not include financial companies. That's the difference. Comparing it to Tesla basically since September 30th, showing us that Tesla has been underperforming. Tesla's beta is 2, so if it was sticking to its beta, or if we were trying to attribute Tesla's losses to its beta alone, it would only be down in the neighborhood of 4%, but instead it's down 27 over the same time. So here's that chart. The white line is the NDX going back to September 30th, and the red line is Tesla stock. Over that time, the NDX basically even, Tesla currently down around 27%. You could spend all day trying to pinpoint Tesla's underperformance on something specific, whether it's zero COVID fears in China, it could be the Twitter overhang, fears of Elon needing to sell more Tesla stock, competition coming, Q3 miss, whatever you want. Ultimately though, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter unless you're a short-term trader. But as a long-term investor, what do I always say? Zoom out. This is what we just did on the chart. Now we're looking at a 5-year time horizon where Tesla is up 865% and the NDX up 76% over the same time. So if I can encourage even just a few of you out there to zoom out and stop listening to all of the short-term noise, long-term investing entails timeframes of 7+ years. Society has just become so short-sighted and distracted, and I don't want to see anybody out there fall victim to these habits. In response to what I tweeted earlier this morning, some people asked me, what about people who bought Tesla stock 3 years ago? What should they do? Well, of course, without knowing your specific situation, I can't actually give you advice. However, to those people, I would tell you, buying Tesla stock back in November 2019, you're still up 750%, despite one of the biggest drawdowns in Tesla stock history. So my advice right now is do what you can to ignore the noise. That might mean staying off of Twitter for a few weeks, because right now, everywhere you look, there is so much drama and hate that's now directed toward Elon and now Tesla secondarily. And I'm not at all trying to make a prediction here. I'm just saying there's a decent chance that 2023 is a very tough year for investments across the board. So just have your expectations in check. I always say have a cash balance if you can to take advantage of these drawdowns in Tesla stock. And again, just look to the future beyond all of the noise. Moving on, you may recall Tesla had a cash rebate for buyers in China if they purchased insurance with one of Tesla's partners. It previously was 7,000 yuan, which is $970, was supposed to be in effect from October 1st through the end of the year. It should be noted that the reporting on this is saying this incentive is for inventory vehicles. That would entail new current vehicles, new inventory, maybe from orders that were ultimately canceled but they were already built, current vehicles that are not brand new like show cars or vehicles used for test drives. So again, I think people are making this a bigger deal than it really is. All that's happening here, Tesla is adjusting the amounts. Now for the rest of November, that amount is going up to 8,000 yuan. Now 1,000 yuan is equivalent to $137, so it's an extra 137 bucks for November. Then in December, the amount is basically being cut in half, going down to 4,000 yuan, which is equivalent to 550 US dollars. So all this is a small tweak to try to encourage more orders in November. Not every time Tesla does something like this does it have to mean that the demand is cratering or falling off a cliff, or we should all have these major demand concerns. It's just not how this stuff works. Sticking with China, we got the export and retail sales breakdown for the month of October. Tesla exported 54,504 vehicles and sold 17,200 in the domestic retail market. Plugging that into the table, you can see this was indeed a record month for exports. Previously, the high watermark for exports was August of this year, 42.4 thousand. Additionally, when it comes to retail sales, we want to look at the first month of the quarter, which is highlighted in blue. This was the second highest month for the first month of the quarter when it comes to retail sales. Currently, the high watermark is still January of this year when Tesla sold 19,300 domestically in the first month of the quarter. So here's that data for my visual learners. As you can see, October, first month of the quarter, off to a good start. Again, we don't have good comparisons with April or July, but orange are the exports. Again, record month for exports, and we're off to a fine start for Giga Shanghai in quarter 4. This right here is more of what people should be talking about, the safety of Teslas. This was a cool, quick little video shared by Tesla. As you're gonna see in a second, they do hundreds of scenarios in simulation before actually running an actual crash test, so they can learn from what? All of the data that Tesla is able to gather. They're in a league of its own when it comes to data collection, and they apply it to the safety of the vehicles. This is still the #1 aim at Tesla. So look, people can shout all they want about Elon, Twitter, yada yada, but if you want your family in the safest vehicle on the road, you will be considering buying a Tesla. This one is squarely in the rumor category, but it's one I've been watching closely. My fingers have been crossed that the Cybertruck will have steer-by-wire. If you're not familiar with steer-by-wire, just think about variable steering ratios. So for example, if you're traveling at slow speeds in a parking lot, rather than have to do this hand-over-hand turning of the wheel where you have this big ratio, steer-by-wire would let you turn the yoke or the wheel just a little bit to make the turn necessary. This, of course, would fit in with Elon's mantra, the best part is no part, because you can remove the steering column and just replace it with this wire. It gives you a lot more flexibility. This isn't just complete speculation either. Summer of last year, Elon said, "I've been driving with a yoke for a while and it's great. Progressive steering would require complex gearing or drive-by-wire without a direct mechanical link. We'll aim for that in a few years." Unfortunately, I'm not sure why Chris is tweeting this out in the first place, but wanted to pass it along. Sticking with Toyota, I thought it was interesting that the Nikkei Asia is even calling Toyota out a little bit. Tesla earned 8 times as much profit per vehicle as Toyota in the July to September quarter, despite being outsold more than 7-1. Tesla came in ahead in quarterly net profit for the first time since going public in 2010. An analyst at Goldman said the decreased profit does not equate to a decline in Toyota's actual earnings potential, citing many one-time things, COVID situations, closing operations in Russia, higher electricity costs, higher supplier costs, etc. So stuff like this is always fun to see, and this was actually a pretty good article, but it's a lot of stuff we've already been over. It'll be linked below if you'd like to check it out. Here we have 19 seconds of footage, basically Tesla preparing for that exhibition at the Peterson Museum out in California that will start on November 20th, but you do get to see the white Roadster, which looks incredible. So had to pass that along. I've seen some confusion online about the expected future capacity of Giga Berlin when it comes to production. Some people saying 1.5 million, some saying 1 million. This article clears that up. The expansion at Giga Berlin will happen in phases, and the first phase is basically going to be submitted for approval before the end of this year. This expansion at Giga Berlin will happen in phases, and the paperwork for approval for the first phase should be submitted by the end of this year. Per those documents, Drive Tesla Canada saying it'll increase capacity to over 1 million passenger cars per year. Just remember, no matter what these documents say, it's going to take Tesla a few years to ramp to any figure over 1 million cars per year. And here's where that 1.5 million whisper number is coming from. Based on documents seen by Drive Tesla Canada, that number will be over 1.5 million. Here we have an expansion of the pre-existing partnership between Renault and Google that started back in 2018. One of those things that I really don't think would happen without the existence of Tesla. This expansion between the two companies will include the creation of a digital twin, a virtual twin of the vehicle that will feature the most advanced AI capabilities for an easier and continuous integration of new services into the vehicle and the creation of new onboard in-car services and offboard applications. The truth is, these OEMs are going to have to partner with software companies to try to do what Tesla is already doing in-house. I'm telling you, Foxconn is not playing games when it comes to its ambitions in getting into manufacturing EVs, maybe for itself, but definitely for other automakers as well. Now investing $170 million into Lordstown. This will be given over tranches. This still has to be approved, which could take a few months, but an injection of cash for Lordstown Motors. I have to tip the cap to Porsche as they've made their 100,000th Taycan, and if I had unlimited funds, there would be a high-end model of this in my driveway. Last up for today, Tesla set to deliver over 5,000 cars to Israel in Q4 this year. The first shipment should be around 2,500 vehicles, which might be the largest shipment of all time into the region. These cars will arrive before the purchase tax increase law comes into effect. I'm weird and I think about Tesla as this company with little tentacles that are reaching out into all the different regions, and we know what happens when Tesla gets a tentacle into a region. It tends to spread like wildfire. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Please like the video if you did, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.